Well, welcome everybody. It's good to see you. In fact, I'm thankful to see you. And today the topic is thanks God or thankfulness. And according to the dictionary, the opposite of being thankful is to be critical or unthankful, which always leads to bitterness. And what causes us to be critical, unthankful, or bitter? And it's usually in response to a loss of some sort. The loss of a job, the loss of a loved one, the loss of our health, or the loss of hope. The loss of freedom, or the loss of somebody we thought was our friend and being rejected. And those can quickly turn our smile upside down and put a strain on our ability to be thankful. Thankfulness is a decision. And God, via the bold and amazing Apostle Paul, told us to be thankful whatever the circumstances may be. That's from 1 Thessalonians 5:18. See, thankfulness is an art, and an art takes practice. It takes time on task. The great proponent, one of the great proponents of positive thinking is a man named Napoleon Hill. And he realized from his study of many successful men in the United States, and he said, quote, "Most great people have attained their greatest success just one step beyond their greatest failure." End of quote. See, thankfulness is looking at the silver lining that accompanies each and every one of our lives. There's always a silver lining. Has to be. And God gave us each the choice to be bitter or to be thankful. But you and I, we choose thankfulness. And thankfully God has surrounded us with an abundance of things to be thankful for. And as we open our eyes and open our hearts, we can always find something worthy of us saying, "Thanks, God." The serial hugger. We're in the ever-busy Newark airport returning home from the funeral of Josephine's beautiful 41-year-old niece. And she left behind two lovely red-headed children, one 7 and the other 11. To add sorrow to an already sad story, these kids had no dad either. He had passed away a few years earlier. And because there was no will, the family was scrambling trying to figure out what to do with the kids, the car, the house, and the investments. It was a pretty intense week that we were there. And it had been a crazy, heart-rending trip. And to add insult to injury, our flight just got canceled. And I said to myself, not to worry, look for the blessing. It's got to be here somewhere. Look for the escape route. Look for something to be thankful for. So in anticipation of my ever expectant and ever present God bless special, I said to myself, "Thanks, God." And with no intention of spending the night in the Newark airport, I went to the slim young man at gate 22 in his little blue tight blazer and hipster glasses and asked if there was any way I could get back to Colorado Springs today. And he said nothing. I slid him my folded self-printed tickets anyway. And without looking up, his fingers flew across the keyboard and the printer started making encouraging sounds. And he finally made eye contact with me, and with a barely perceptible smile, he handed me 2 fresh tickets for a flight routed through Dallas that was already boarding 2 gates to our right. Yes, thanks God. And as we entered the plane with a nonchalantly laid-back attitude of Group 1, I thought how nice it was to not be in the frenzied cattle call of Group 3 or 4. Thanks, God. And the front of the plane was already full, and drinks were already being served to the people in the big seats, like they were regulars at a local bar. And we were a few rows back. And we quickly strolled down the aisle and got to our seats and put our carry-on bags up above towards the middle of the plane, and they just happened to be near the exit doors, which meant, woohoo, love it, extra leg room. Thanks again, God. And all of a sudden, the boarding seemed to stop. And no one was coming down the aisle anymore. And the people in the rarefied air of first class were laughing and making those ah sounds like they were watching a cute puppy licking a little baby's face on YouTube. So I wondered what was up. So I leaned into the walkway to see what was happening and was instantly rewarded by what I saw. A solid little girl wearing a warm smile and pink jammies, maybe 3 years old, was giving each and every passenger with an aisle seat a hug. And everyone was smiling. And secretly, I hope she didn't run out of hugs by the time she got to me. And the serial hugger finally made it to our row. And I leaned over and she wrapped her thick little arms around my neck, pulled my cheek to hers, closed her eyes, and squeezed. And with all that had happened over the past week, I enjoyed that hug a little more than I'd like to admit. Thanks, God. When she released me, I looked up and saw she was tethered by 2 thick straps to her tired and pregnant young mother. And I know a few things about being leashed to a young mom in a public place. And her mom looked at me with the tired grin of a weary traveler, and she just shrugged and she said, "She thinks it's church." And I thought, wherever this little girl goes is her church. Thanks, God. That little girl taught me a lesson on the simple act of giving for the sheer joy of giving, for the sheer joy of making other people happy. It looked like she just thought it was her job to do that. And she reminded me of all the many random things we have to be thankful for, even in the midst of what could be an unthankful situation. Thanks, God. 2 Corinthians 9:15 from the NCV. Thanks be to God for His gift that is too wonderful for words. King James says, for His unspeakable gift. When things are going wrong, look around for something to be thankful for. It's always there. It's always there. Thankfulness gives us the ability to recognize the many gifts God has already supplied. Again, thanks, God. Now the recipe for happiness. The heavy chain scraped the stone floor. Metal dug into his wrists and ankles. Paul knew that the Roman prison system was not designed for rehabilitation, that its sole purpose was to hold someone for trial, which usually led to slavery or death, yet he kept himself thankful. He had been charged unjustly and shipped halfway across the known world to stand trial in Rome. It wasn't his home. It wasn't around anybody he knew. There was no family, there was no friends, really. See, the Roman law was harsh. Their set of laws called the 12 Tables said things like, unpaid debt ends in slavery or death. Singing a song that slandered another got you clubbed to death. If a businessman defrauded his client, he will be put to death. A false witness will be thrown off a high cliff to his death. If a judge receives a bribe, he will receive the punishment of death. Someone putting someone else to death who had not been convicted of a crime was forbidden and will end in that person's death. So basically in the Roman Empire, you obey or you die. Paul knew this. They'd occupied Israel for 100 years already. Their laws were quick and harsh, and you obeyed or you died. Now, Paul was in a prison or in a house chained to a Roman guard at this time when he wrote this stuff. And the things that we're about to read were written when he was in incarceration of some sort. Paul was fully aware that few people came out of a Roman prison alive. Sometimes they would just leave them there. There was no such thing as the right to a speedy trial. You could be there your whole life waiting for trial, and they could just leave you there. And if nobody gave you food, sometimes you just starved to death. So you had to make friends pretty quick. Heck, before he'd converted to Christianity, he himself had sentenced many people and families to prison, which ended in their death back in Israel. And the Romans had to be complicit with this because they owned Israel. Just think about that one for a minute. You know, Paul had every right to be bitter. And even in prison, his words always seem to still ring out with hope, happiness, and thankfulness. 2 Corinthians 11, we're going to read 21 through 28 from the Message. Since you admire the egomaniacs of the pulpit so much, remember this is your old friend, the fool, talking. Let me try my hand at it. Do they brag of being Hebrews, Israelites, the pure race of Abraham? I'm their match. Are they servants of Christ? I can go them one better. I can't believe I'm saying these things. It's crazy to talk this way, but I started and I'm going to finish. Verse 23. I've worked much harder, been jailed more often, beaten up more times than I can count, and at death's door time after time. I've been flogged 5 times with the Jews, 39 lashes, beaten by the Romans' rods 3 times, pummeled with rocks once. I've been shipwrecked 3 times, and immersed in the open sea for a night and a day. In hard traveling year in, year out, I've had to ford rivers, fend off robbers, struggle with friends, struggle with foes. I've been at risk in the city, at risk in the country, endangered by the desert sun and sea storms, and betrayed by those who I thought were my brothers. I've known drudgery and hard labor, many a long and lonely night without sleep. Many a missed meal, blasted by the cold, naked to the weather. And that's not the half of it, when you throw in the daily pressures and anxiety of all the churches. See, the amazing thing about Paul, and the amazing thing about you, is that even in the midst of hell, we can find something to be thankful for. And when we're happy, it's easy to be thankful. And vice versa. You know, when you're thankful, it's easy to be happy. Remember, happiness is a decision. You decide to be happy, just like you decide to be thankful. We look around. There always is something. It may just be a bird. It may be the sun shining. It may be that you just woke up that day. You know, let's look around and notice all the many things we have to be thankful for. And that's going to make us happy. Philippians 4:10 through 14 from the Message. I'm glad in God, far happier than you would ever guess. Happy that you're again showing a strong concern for me. Not that you ever quit praying and thinking about me. You just had no chance to show it. Actually, I don't have a sense of needing anything personally. I've learned by now how to be quite content whatever my circumstances. I'm just as happy with little as with much as with little. I've found the recipe for being happy whether full or hungry, hands full or hands empty. Whatever I have, whatever I am, I can make it through anything in the one who makes me who I am. I don't mean that your help didn't mean a lot to me. It did. It was a beautiful thing that you came alongside me in my troubles. See, Paul made his own happiness by being thankful. Paul decided to be happy. Paul decided to be thankful. And as we do the same things, it doesn't matter the situation, we can be victorious. Philippians 3:13 from King James. Brethren, I count not myself to have apprehended, but this one thing I do, forgetting those things which are behind, and reaching forth unto those things which are before. See, Paul could have given up on himself and given up on God, but he teaches us that no matter the problem, no matter the hurt, no matter the attack, we can be happy and thankful. I've known Christians who got hurt by their church and they threw their Bibles away. They blamed God for that hurt, whereas it was just stupid man. You see, they stopped looking for the silver lining. They stopped being thankful, which tends toward what? Bitterness. The opposite of thankfulness is bitterness. It's being critical. When we see ourselves bitter or critical, we're no longer thankful. Thankfulness is the key to flip that over. See, Paul showed us a recipe for happiness is to notice what's in front of us, to notice what all the great things that are around us, and to be aware of what we're designed to do. He knew what he did. He knew what he was delivered from. So do you. If you thought back on all the things God has done for you in your life, nothing would stop you. There'd be nothing that could stop you. God has brilliantly and obviously supplied all our needs. Thankfulness is a recipe for happiness. Now thankfulness is giving back. And we humans are designed to be thankful. It's our design. We work the best being thankful. Our lives will work out far better when we are thankful, when we stay thankful. And we have so much to be thankful for if we just look around. Sort of, what's that, count the roses, or, you got to stop and smell the roses. Just be aware. See, if we don't have this, it causes bitterness, jealousy, and that victim mentality. Victims aren't thankful. They're bitter because they don't have what somebody else has. Jealousy is the opposite of thankfulness. Thankfulness covers a whole multitude of junk, a multitude of sins, so to speak. It's one of the coolest things. Now, many times in the New Testament, the word thankfulness is the same word as grateful. And they're in the dictionary, they're considered to be synonymous. And I've talked about this before. But thankfulness, usually there's a giver and a receiver. I'm thankful to you for what you did for me. I'm thankful to God. Gratefulness, I can just be grateful. I guess you can just be thankful that you're alive. Grateful. Thankful. There's similar words in the Greek. And see, we have to train ourselves to be thankful. Remember, it's an art. You're not just going to be thankful. You're not born again and now you're thankful for everything. It's not like that. You have to make yourself happy. Make yourself thankful. And once you do this, it starts changing. It starts setting up this whole chain reaction in our mind and lives. We become a different person. But it takes work sometimes. Recently, I've been trying to figure out how to get myself to the next level in areas of my life, like health and finances and relationships, the big three. And I'm fully aware that if I want to see true change in my life, I'm going to need to truly change. You got to change something to change something. Sitting on the couch dreaming doesn't, it helps, but it doesn't do any good if action isn't there. Like I said a couple of weeks ago, dreams don't work unless we do. Dreams don't work unless we do. See, I'm fully aware that God has already supplied all my need. I know He's promised me health and prosperity. I even believe that I can do all things through Christ. So what's my problem? I'm certain that God will move mountains if I just believe. I've seen it. Not a mountain, but my mountains. I've seen Him work gloriously at times in my life, miraculously. Why is it then, with all this great truth in my head and these great experiences, do I feel at times like I'm spinning my wheels and I'm stuck in a rut? It just doesn't make sense. So I ask God, and I ask Him every day to show me how to get to this next level of personal development. And I began the tedious job of objectively peeling back the layers of my life so that I could just maybe find the cause. Because it has to be a reason if I'm not reaching my goals the way I want to. If somebody else can, I should be able to. What's the difference? Is God better to them than to me? No. Is God better to me than to you? No. That's crazy talk. I started to change my daily habits. I stopped reading novels and read only books that propel me towards my new goals. Here's a few of them. And I listened to audiobooks instead of talk radio or music now. You see, I started getting up even earlier and working out on a daily basis instead of cramming it into my running into 1 or 2 days a week. I started getting more sleep and drinking more water. I watched my diet a little closer and was very careful who I spent my time with. It seemed to be helping me, but I still felt like something else was missing. I'm seeing improvement, but I'm not seeing it at the pace that I want to demand out of myself. And my wife, ever the helper, decided to join in on my newfound project of me. And she pointed out that I was also using too much self-deprecating humor. And I disagreed with her. But secretly, as I paid closer attention to my words, and calling myself a dummy a few times, oops, there I go again. I found another layer. And then out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks, Luke 6:45. And I realized my words, as innocent and as funny as they might be, even to me, it's still harmful. I would never say to somebody else what I say to myself. Ever. Never, ever, ever would I do it. And some people would never say to themselves what they do say to other people. That's not my style. I have trouble teasing people. So I've tried to look for the blessings. I try to look for the blessings in my life all day long now, and I'm becoming more aware of them. Instead of looking at myself in the mirror thinking, boy, I sure could afford to lose a few pounds, I now think, I sure am thankful I live in a country with such an abundance of food. See, we all already know what we need to do to lose weight. You don't need to chastise yourself. Just be thankful for what you got. I'm thankful I have enough food to eat. Some people don't. So that's the silver lining on that one. Instead of hating rush hour traffic, think, yes, now I have even more time to listen to that audiobook. I'm getting to the good part now. Or like my friend Dave from California does. He uses his rush hour traffic time to make his phone calls. And I love his traffic jam calls because he always has something cool to say. Quote, when I started counting my blessings, my whole life turned around. Willie Nelson. This is not just new stuff. Anybody who's successful knows about thankfulness. Every book I read, every audiobook I read talks about gratitude. They all do, which is similar to thankfulness. They say have a gratitude list, a thankful list, and look at it every day. Before you go to bed, what are you thankful for from that day? But it's hard to discipline yourself to think back at the end of the day all the things that happened. But I bet it's a good way to go to sleep. See, the key is to be thankful for everything. Now that doesn't sound right sometimes. I'm not thankful for that. The bad's well. Paul said be thankful in everything. Maybe not for everything. But we're thankful at all times. And if you're in a bad situation, what's the silver lining there? There has to be one. You get a flat tire. Well, maybe maybe you miss a meeting, but you got to meet somebody along the way. Got to talk to somebody at the repair shop. I mean, there's always something. You got to make a couple of phone calls. Try to look at the silver lining. Try to look at what you could be thankful for. There has to be something, even in a bad situation. Maybe just that one word that you said to the tow truck driver will change his life. You don't know. You see, the key is to be thankful for everything, in everything. Thankfulness is a necessary mindset for human success. It's full on. Thankfulness is full on living. We'll never achieve heights if we aren't thankful. We can't. It won't last. One of humanity's great mistakes is unthankfulness. One of their greatest mistakes is unthankfulness, because it leads to bitterness. Doesn't the Bible say, let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice? Put it all away. Thankfulness can cure all those things. It cures bitterness. It cures wrath and anger and hatred and variance and emulation and strife. People do that because they're afraid. Thankfulness cures fear. That's pretty cool. It's a great thing, this thankfulness. A lack of thankfulness to God has kept mankind from finding their abundance since Adam and Eve. A lack of a focus on thankfulness, with a lack on seeing what we're thankful, what things we could be thankful for, we won't see the abundance that's promised us. See, thankfulness opens our eyes to the abundance that we deserve. Quote, "The thankful receiver bears a plentiful harvest." William Blake. See, Paul wrote, quote, "Although they knew God, they neither glorified him as God, nor gave thanks to him." Romans 1:21. See, these people in Romans, they knew God, but they chose not to recognize him or give thanks to him. And isn't that where the whole world's going? They think themselves. They think they are the purveyors of their great success. And most of these books I'm reading now, they always have something toward about God. If you really want to see the success thing happen, they use different words for it. Because some people don't like the word God. They say it's too loaded. It just brings you back to maybe your childhood church days. I like it. Because I don't think of God as being at one place at one time. I think of him as being multi-dimensional, living in the past and in the future and right now, that we dwell in him. Everywhere you walk, you're walking through God. So how could you not be blessed? People pray, "God, where are you in my time of need?" He says, "I'm right here. I never went anywhere." When you lay in bed, he's right there with you. He envelopes his whole universe with his love and his light and his power. So how could we fail? We're just trained to fail. We're trained to not recognize God. That's what Paul was saying there. We think, oh, we're Christians, we get that. We don't do that. We worship God. Well, where we're not seeing the abundance we need, at that point we are not thankful. At that point we are not giving God the respect and the glory that he deserves. You see, a bitter heart is a heart that has decided not to express gratitude. And I've been peeling back those layers trying to figure out where I'm not. And it's just fun. The books help me, the audio tapes help me, Josephine helps me, you help me. It's cool stuff. Luke 17, 11 through 19. And this is a record about 10 people who get healed. But only one of them's thankful. And it made a big difference. See, God lets the rain fall on the just and the unjust. The sun shine on the just and the unjust. God gives to everybody. God will heal people who hate him. Because God is love. That's sort of the attitude we have to have. There's going to be people out there who don't like you. But it just can't define your life. Because then you're not thankful for your life. You're living for their life. It's not worth it, folks. People get sick. It's like I've said before. One of my clients was owns a coffee shop. His whole family works there. And I asked him, I said, what did you do before you bought this shop? He said, I was a CEO at a big computer company in Seattle. And I said, why'd you start this? He said, well, after my third heart attack. And he let his words trail off. After my third heart attack. It wasn't that wasn't the fit for him. It wasn't the right job. Some people thrive in that, but it tore him down. I knew a guy who was a doctor, a research doctor, and they told him at his company that he could not they would not advance him unless he started playing golf with them and drinking after work. So he went out with the boys, took up drinking, went up to about 300 pounds, got fairly good at golf, and it started hurting his marriage too, because he was away in the evenings with the boys. Then he got he quit doing that, he quit drinking, and he quit hanging out with them, and I don't know if he plays golf, but the point is don't let somebody else change who you are. It's going to make you, bitterness will make you sick. You know that. Everybody knows that. That root of bitterness it talks about in the Bible. It's deadly. It's just the opposite of thankfulness. So if you can keep yourself thankful, you won't be bitter. Not be bitter, you're going to be happy. If you're happy, you're going to be healthier, right? A merry heart, a cheerful heart, a happy heart does good like what? A medicine. Okay, so here we go. And it came to pass as he went to Jerusalem that he passed through the midst of Samaria and Galilee. And as he entered into a certain village, there met him 10 men that were lepers, which stood afar off. And they lifted up their voices and said, Jesus, Master, have mercy on us. And when he saw them, he said to them, go show yourselves to the priest. And it came to pass as they went, they were cleansed. And one of them, when he saw that he was healed, he turned back and with a loud voice glorified God. He fell down on his face at his feet, giving him thanks. And he was a Samaritan. Jesus answering said, were there not 10 cleansed? Where are the 9? They are not found that returned to give glory to God, save this stranger. And he said unto him, arise, go thy way, thy faith has made thee whole. Okay, so were they all healed? Yeah. It says the man who expressed his thankfulness was not just cleansed of his skin disease, like the others, but he was healed through and through. It's that word sozo. You see, his thankfulness expressed out loud healed him deeply. Deeply. Not just on the surface like the other 9. You want to be healed deeply? Deeply. And be thankful. Maybe your situation doesn't seem thankful right now. Worthy of thankfulness. Maybe you don't have the money you really need or want. Maybe your health isn't there. You see, maybe your love life isn't at the point that you really want it to be. You see, which could tend toward bitterness. Why them and not me? And then we start turning on ourselves, like a piranha. It's because my rear's too fat, or my hair's too messy, or you fill in the blank. I got a lousy job. I have horrible friends, and you just keep saying this. I was raised with a poor family, my family didn't love me. You can fill in all the blanks, all the excuses. And at some point you're going to stop and go, I'm thankful for my rear end. I'm thankful, for the body I have. I'm thankful whatever size I am. You got to be thankful for who you are and what you have. And then you're going to get more. Then you get more. Take care of what you have, and God will give you more. You've heard that since you were a child, probably. You want more toys? Take care of the toys you have. One of the greatest toys you have is thankfulness. The most useful toys, the most useful tools. It's sort of the duct tape, hammer, and pliers of a toolbox. And screwdriver. See, thankfulness is the door to the miraculous. So in closing, the opposite of being thankful is to be critical or unthankful, which leads to bitterness and takes the joy out of our life. Thankfulness is always a decision. Paul decided to be blessed and to be thankful even while he was in the typical death row of the Roman prison system. The 10 lepers were all healed, but only the one who turned back and decided to give thanks was made whole. As we learn to notice the many blessings around us, of which there are many, and be thankful for everything in every situation, we will discover the miraculous that's been waiting for us all the time. Like that little girl on the plane, pulling her mom down the aisle, hugging each passenger in an aisle seat. Let's let our light shine also. Let your light shine before men, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. Let's spend our days noticing the blessings and being thankful for all the many things that we have. And the benefit to us will be health, prosperity, and better relationships. Thanks, God. Amen.